To Peter Gorkin, my beast, myself. Ever since the night I died, I have hated you. As my mind fractured and your claws ripped at my sense of humanity, I know that you would haunt me until my final nights. I've dedicated my life to controlling you, my cruel beast, and freeing myself from the traps that you would ensnare me in. I wasn't wrong to recognize the dangers you represent. You are everything horrific about eternity, and I know that you seek my utter ruin. But now, I understand the truth of things. For all the real harm you have caused me, I have used you as an excuse. Blaming you for all the ways my life has disappointed me. It is true that you have encouraged and enhanced my worst impulses. But I have lost sight of the fact that they are my impulses in the first place. It has become all too easy for me to do wrong and shift my responsibility onto you. But more than that, to blame you for what others do not desire in me. For decades I've feared learning the truth and told myself whatever horrors that the truth might represent were due to you. The truth is, Melanthia does not love me. Not in the way that I need. And when I say that, I finally understand that means that she's not in love with me. And that has nothing to do with you. She is haunted by her beast as I am by you. I've been foolish enough in believing that her lack of desire for me was your fault. It is a convenient myth. As long as I believed that I could spare myself from this desolate feeling of rejection. But I can't indulge in the lies anymore. It is time to accept reality and make a decision. This is not a matter of wants, but needs. I need Melanthia. Hearing that she doesn't need me is earth-shattering. My heart feels torn to pieces, and the very sight of Amelia's name fills me with rage. I know that you stir as well, and your whispers heighten my suffering. I know that you take joy in this, but I need your help. I realize that if I'm to have the woman I love, I must become what I've always feared. In order to help Melanthia find true happiness, I must cause her great suffering. I will burn her world down around her, and in the end, she will find me, ready to help her rebuild. She may learn of my role and hate me for it, but time will heal all wounds. And whether it's 1 year or 100, I will wait for her. I need you to steal my resolve. I need you to help me stay on this path, though it shall be dangerous and unpleasant. My journey will take me to the heart of the Camarilla, and to do that I must refresh myself on their ways. Writing down information in my notes have always been the best way for me to restore and recall. And what better place to muse than in this screen to myself? After all, if I forget anything, this letter will be waiting for me in Paris. Many refer to the Camarilla as the Ivory Tower, and most within that sect understand that any tower must be built upon a strong foundation. For the Camarilla, that foundation is 6 traditions. The traditions form the source of all authority in the Camarilla society and law. In modern nights, the prince of the domain fulfills the elder role outlined in the traditions. Much of vampiric law and culture springs from the traditions. presentation is outlined in the tradition of hospitality, the blood hunt in the tradition of destruction, and the division of feeding grounds in the tradition of domain. To this night, they remain the bulwark of the Camarilla society and are strictly upheld, out of the fear that ignoring them would lead to another catastrophic event, such as the Inquisition or worse. The customs codified in the 6 traditions have been in place in some form long before the formation of the Ivory Tower. But not every tradition has always been venerated until the Camarilla enforced it. Interpretations of the traditions and customs on how the prince enforces these laws in a local domain are informally called the courtesies and intrigues. All Camarilla neonites are expected to learn and understand the traditions. Ignorance is not an excuse when it comes to a violation of one of these precepts, which is one reason I must be firm in my understanding. These laws are absolute, and any violation of them is met with swift and severe retribution. Thou shalt not reveal thy true nature to those not of the blood. In doing so shall renounce thy claims of blood. The masquerade is the heart of the existence of the Ivory Tower. Long ago, kindred could walk abroad in the glory of their power, but times have changed. Immortals have come to possess frightening technology and the power to destroy the world. Vast amounts of time and treasure have been invested into turning vampires into myths. Over the past 500 years, kindred have struggled to eradicate belief in and knowledge of vampires via hiding reports, discrediting or exterminating witnesses, and harshly disciplining those who violate the masquerade. Most princes define a masquerade breach as Cainite revealing themselves as a vampire to a human, through error or choice, and then allowing said human to escape with the knowledge. Many elders still remember the madness and slaughter that followed the Inquisition, and they ruthlessly punish any who repeat the mistake that led to it. The penalty for breaching the masquerade is, most often, final death. Every Camarilla vampire is supposed to be on watch for the violations of the masquerade and stop any breach she might come across. Failure to halt a violation of the masquerade or to report such to the appropriate authorities is almost as bad as breaking the tradition itself. The Camarilla takes the masquerade very seriously. While the other laws of the Camarilla are occasionally subject to looser interpretations, the first tradition remains inviolable. The Camarilla exists as a front of deception. I chuckle at the irony of this existence. The very essence of who we are, bound by the lie that we perpetuate to survive. Thy domain is thine own concern. All others owe thee respect while in it. The second tradition is the heart of a prince's authority over her domain. When a prince claims praxis, she is stating to all other vampires that she has the freedom to do as she pleases within her dominion. Domain, the second tradition, is the delicate dance of coexistence that ensures survival in the nights to come. While the masquerade conceals kindred from the mortal gaze, domain safeguards them from the internal conflict and strife. Successful management of the domain's resources is vital to the prince's security. The world has grown a great deal smaller in the past few centuries, and the number of kindred vying for a piece of land to call their own grows with every night. These nights, it's a rare kindred who holds a significant domain and isn't a prince or a powerful elder. Often the prince gives out portions of their own domain in payment for some favor or service, and in return expects the occupant to enforce the prince's will. Those who expect autonomy in such situations, however, are in for a terrible disappointment. Thou shalt only sire another with the permission of thine elder. If thou createst another without thine elder's leave, both thou and thy progeny shall be slain. Embracing a mortal into the eternal nights is a profound and irreversible act. The third tradition governs the inception of a new life, a legacy that will endure throughout the eons. In the echoes of immortal existence, our progeny carry forth our lineage and our essence. In the Ivory Tower, the right to create a progeny is one of the more fiercely sought-after boons a prince can offer to a loyal subject. As long as she controls the right to bring mortals into vampire society, the prince has a never-ending stream of kindred seeking her favor. Vampires beget more vampires, and the other sects, such as Sabbat, have a method of natural selection that stems this problem to a degree. Camarilla neonates who follow the traditions tend to survive and thrive under the protection of the Ivory Tower. This presents a quandary for a wily prince. Having too many kindred in the city threatens the masquerade and makes hunting more difficult. Too few leaves the city vulnerable to attack. Wise princes enforce third tradition ruthlessly. Those thou create are thine own children. Until thy prodigy shall be released, thou shalt command them in all things. Their sins are thine to endure. The bonds of family and lineage transcend the confines of time. A child's actions resonate in the heart of the sire. The fourth tradition, accounting, demands a profound level of responsibility. Embracing a mortal into the world of the Camarilla is a tremendous risk to the sire. The blood wreaks vast changes on the mortal's body and mind. The flood of power that comes with undeath can overwhelm a new vampire and provoke lapses in judgment that could threaten the entire masquerade. As a result, a new vampire sire is held personally responsible for her childer's actions until formally released before the prince. The sire faces any penalty the childer's behavior earns in full and up to including final death. Wise princes implement this tradition forcefully, feeling that the accounting forces young kindred to take the embrace seriously and choose their progeny carefully. To formally release a child, a sire must present her progeny before the prince and announce before the court that said childer is ready to be released. This presentation provides the prince with a chance to interview the child and determine if the sire educated her properly. This process will usually involve questioning about the traditions and how they might apply to unusual circumstances. Failure will lead to a declaration of scandal from the Harpies, and possibly punishment from the prince. Honor one another's domain. When thou comest to a foreign city, thou shalt present thyself to one who ruleth there. Without the word of acceptance, thou art nothing. The Ivory Tower is a society of predators seeking to limit their bloodthirst via engaging in social customs designed to smooth over these tense situations. Social graces keep them from tearing into one another on sight, and allow them to establish relationships other than kill or be killed. The fifth tradition is a perfect example of this sort of social buffering, as it allows kindred to move into one another's territory without immediately coming into conflict. If a kindred crosses into the domain of another kindred, it is customary for the visitor to announce herself to prevent unnecessary bloodshed. At its simplest level, the fifth tradition is simply a mandate for all strangers entering into a city to present themselves to the prince. The presentation can take many forms, from a simple greeting to a formal recitation of the traditions and one's lineage. In modern nights, this tradition is generally fulfilled by petitioning a member of the Progeny or the seneschal to request a meeting with the prince of a given city and seeking her acceptance. Wise princes are content to grant this acceptance easily to temporary visitors and closely question immigrants seeking to establish a new residence. By acknowledging a vampire who presents herself, a prince grants that kindred permission to stay, dwell, and hunt within her city. By presenting herself, the vampire acknowledges the prince's authority and ensures that she isn't immediately brought down by a scourge who doesn't know her on sight. I need to be mindful of this tradition when I arrive in a Camarilla city. It's the first one that can truly trip me up. I can't allow my intentions to be revealed until I'm ready to act. Thou art forbidden to destroy another of thy kind. The right of destruction belongeth only to thine elder. Only the eldest among thee shall call a blood hunt. The final tradition is the darkest. According to the oldest known readings of this law, the sixth tradition grants a sire or an elder the right to destroy any and all of their progeny. The prince, under the Camarilla's auspices, holds the right of destruction over any vampire in her domain. It is expected that a prince shall use this power responsibly and only for the benefit of the domain against miscreants who are a direct threat. She may extend this right to others, but ultimately, the prince is always responsible for every lawful death that occurs under her domain. Should the prince abuse her praxis by using the right of destruction too freely, she risks the domain rising up against her in a coup to deprive her of this power. Sires are still allowed to destroy their unacknowledged childer before presentation, but otherwise, kinslaying is strictly outlawed in the Camarilla domains. Sires attempting to reclaim the blood via their ancient birthright might find that princes refuse them. Once a Neonite has been presented and accepted, she belongs to the Camarilla. The ties of blood are strong, and many princes will deliberately delay justice in order to accept boons and bribes from sires, primogens, and other clanmates of the condemned, seeking the prince's permission to slay a wayward clanmate. Their traditions are laws designed to protect all of kindred society. The sixth tradition is paramount to maintaining civilized behavior within a domain, especially amongst predators competing for feeding territory. It is possible to petition for or even purchase the right to destroy another, where the prince never grants such right without great cost. Creation and destruction are the two most potent weapons in a prince's arsenal. And she guards them jealously. I write these laws down so they may be burned into my memory. I send this letter to the Elysium of Paris, where I will retrieve it so that my memory is fresh. But more than the traditions, I send to myself this message to bind myself to this path I walk. I love Melanthia, and in time, she will learn to love me. Once she's free of distraction, we'll both have all the time in the world to remake ourselves and our relationship to one another. It will not be easy to hurt her. I need your help to make me strong, so I can do what's necessary. I have feared my beast since I was a fledgling, but it's time for that fear to end. It's time for us to end our conflict and become one person, acting towards one purpose. Forcing Melanthia to change her heart's desire. The die is cast, my cruel demon. We're in this together. Peter Gorkin, Clan, Malkavian, Milan, February 1945.